welcome to Good Grief, the podcast dedicated to demystifying and destigmatizing grief with compassion and humor. I'm Nikki. I'm an end-of-life doula and a grief coach in Columbus, Ohio. And today, is my 100th episode. Yes, you heard that right. This is my 100th full episode. I have had more than 100 episodes, but I've had some rewinds and some one-offs and some shorter things. But this is my 100th full episode. I don't know what to say. I'm humbled. I'm excited. I'm just, I don't know. I had this idea 3 years ago or so to have a podcast, and I hemmed and hawed and muffled that around in my brain for way too long before I finally just said, poop on it, I'm doing it. So here I am. Couple years and 200 episodes later. I've been at this for 2 years now, over 2 years. My first episode aired on June 1st, 2022. So just over 2 years. I never thought I would go this far. I mean, maybe I did. I don't know. When I first started this, I remember my husband asked me the question, and I had the thought too of, do I have enough material to keep doing a weekly podcast for X amount of time? I don't know. And I said, I'm just going to go. And if I do 2 years, I do 2 years. And I've gone longer than that. And I have no real signs of stopping now. So yeah, I want to thank all my listeners out there. I have a handful of people that have been with me since the very first episode. Thank you. I have some people that jumped in midway and told me they went back and listened to every single episode the whole way through. So thank you. I can't thank you enough. I could do this without listeners, but that would be weird. Or maybe not. I don't know. I would just be talking to myself to hear myself talk. I don't always go back and listen to my episodes after I post them. So it would be those things I record and nobody hears. Anyway, but that doesn't matter because I have listeners. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Okay. And I want to say a huge thank you to my Patreon patrons. I am so grateful to you all. I say it on every episode. I started a Patreon for the sole purpose of being able to provide pro bono work. I love what I do as an end-of-life doula, and I would love to be able to just do it for free, but I can't. And I do encounter people from time to time who need my help, who can't afford to pay for services. So having you guys there to help kind of fill that gap is absolutely huge. So thank you to my patrons. If you would like to help me in my endeavor to provide more services, I would love to have you. Go on over to patreon.com/Nikki the Death Doula. You will get early access to this podcast. You can hear it a week early before anybody else, so you'd be part of the cool crowd. I might give you a shout out I'll give you a shout out on this podcast. I'll say your name for all my listeners to hear. I do other Q&As, special episodes, and for my interviews with my guests, I post the videos over there on Patreon too, so you can see those. For as little as $1 a month, you can be helping me out, and that would be amazing. Thank you. All right, so for today's episode, I don't know. I hemmed and hawed a lot about this and about what to do. I toyed with the idea of reading 100 tips on how to work through your grief, or 100 tips on working with grief, and I realized that would just be an 1.5 hour long episode, and nobody wants that. So I decided I'm gonna kind of answer some of my most frequently asked questions I get, and then ask some couple questions from the death deck, and that'll be all. I know it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but I don't know. I just wanted to do something a little different for today, so let's dive in. I would say the question I get asked the most of any other question is, how did you get to be a death doula? And I always struggle with this question because I don't have this like one amazing story, or most people I've talked to who do something like what I do have this inciting incident or something that happened to them that kind of made them be where they are and kind of push them in this direction. I don't really have like a big aha moment or this huge thing that happened, but there were a lot of little things that led me here. So years back, probably 7, 8 years ago, there was a YouTube video by Caitlin Doughty. I reference her a lot. I call her my patron saint. She is one of the reasons why I do what I do. And she has a YouTube channel called Ask a Mortician. And I just love her YouTube channel because she just shares all these cool things about mortuary work and things like that, which I've always been very fascinated with. There was a period of time where I wanted to go to school to be a mortician, and I just opted not to because the idea of going back to school for a lengthy period of time has never appealed to me. I didn't enjoy school when I went to it the first time around, and I'm not a very good student. So I know my limits. Anyway, she had a video where she had talked about death doulas, and I was just utterly fascinated. Like instantly, I was like, what is this death doula thing? How do I do this? This is amazing. And I kind of dove in a little bit with that. I did, I found articles, I found a couple books, I read a bunch of things online about what death doulas are. And I'm like, this is amazing. Like, what a cool thing. And that was a long time ago, well before I started actually doing this. It was one of those things that just kind of sat in the back of my brain for the longest period of time. And I kept thinking I would love to do that, but I could never actually do that. I won't get into the history of my life or anything, but I was raised very much to believe that you go to school, you go to college, you get a career, and that's that. And if you don't do that thing, you're screwing up. It was just, I cannot tell you how much it was pushed into my head that you have to have a job, you have to have a career, you have to have all this. And it just never occurred to me that you don't need all that. You don't have to go that route. And fast forward to COVID, when, like everybody in the world, was stuck at home, not a lot to do other than to reevaluate your entire existence on this blue marble. And for a long time, I had not been happy at my job, and it was affecting other parts of my life. And being stuck at home with nothing to do but my job, I near lost my mind, and I realized I can't do this anymore. I was very unhappy with a lot of things on my trajectory of life, and I sat back and thought, do I want to continue doing this until I die? Because retirement's just not, it's a pipe dream that doesn't exist for people anymore, right? And unless you're just independently wealthy. Retirement's just not a thing. And I thought, I can't do this until I die. And I need to do something more meaningful with my life. And I worked with a life coach, and this death doula thing kept popping back up. And she was like, so why don't you do that? And that I guess was the aha moment of, oh my God, I can just do this. I can do whatever I want. I'm an adult. I'm 40 years old and I own a trampoline. Like I can do whatever I want. So I went through the training, and literally day one of training with Anelda, and I was like, this is my life. This is what I need to do. So finished my training, started my certification process, started my LLC, and here I am. That's really it. I have a passion for helping people in their most vulnerable moments. I'm a compassionate and accepting and open person, and it's home. This line of work is home for me. So yeah, that's why I do what I do. The other most frequently asked question I get is, how do I do this and not lose myself in it? How do I basically the crude way I get asked is, how do you not lose your mind doing this? And it's easy. I'm good with my self-care. It is easy to take on too much. I know my limits, right? I'm not going to try to have 6 clients at one time, because that would emotionally and mentally be too much for me. I would be emotionally too much for anybody, I would think. But I know I can't hold space like that for that many people. I know my limits. So I keep my clients to just a couple at a time. And I have little rituals I do before and after visiting with my clients, where I take the time to hold their grief and their pain and hold space for it and embrace it. And then I put it away. I have my own little ritual. It's hokey pokey. I won't go into the details, but I kind of, I hesitate to use the term compartmentalize, but I kind of pack it away and put it on a shelf until I need it again. So that's the easiest way to say I'm able to hold space for somebody and let it go after. Hey everybody, future editing Nikki, jumping in here because I forgot to put an ad break in. And I know I don't do ads. I'm not getting paid for this. But I am a member of the Feminist Podcast Collective, and part of that is giving a little time to talk about the other podcasts that are part of the collective. And I do this because I love my fellow podcasting ladies. I love what they do, and they love me, and they are supporting me in what I do. So if you go check out their podcast, you might hear an ad for my show. So without further ado, here are just a couple other members of the Feminist Podcast Collective.
Welcome to Content with Character, the weekly podcast that'll give you the momentum you need to create content with more ease, clarity, and laughter. I'm your host, content copywriter Emily Aborn, and I'm all about unconventional marketing approaches. I believe in your big ideas, and I'm excited to help you share them in a way that's distinctly you.
Hi, I'm Alicia Galati, podcast strategist and host of Top 100 Marketing Podcast, Listeners to Leads. Podcasting can feel very one-track and lonely. So my goal with Listeners to Leads is to not only support you in growing and monetizing your show by turning your listeners into leads, but also to be able to navigate podcasting in a way that feels right for you. Join me every week on your favorite podcast listening app.
I'm honestly a little surprised. A question I get asked a lot is this full-time for me? And I've said before, it's not. I have a part-time job and I do some freelance work outside of my doula work to pay the bills. As of right now, it's not a full-time job. Would I like it to be? Yes, of course I would. I would love to be able to just do this full-time and not have to work other part-time jobs. But I am able, just the fact that I'm able to do it at all, and that I now have a lifestyle with the flexibility and freedom that I can without having to worry about a full-time job is amazing. And I know how lucky I am that I can do this. Another question I get asked a lot is, what exactly does a death doula do? And I'm not going to really answer that right now. I have an entire episode on that. And I also have a lot of information on my website. So you can find that at nikkithedeathdoula.com. But also, like I said, I have a full episode on what does the death doula do. So go back and listen to that one if you want to hear more about what exactly it is I do. So those are like the biggest questions I get all the time. And I put it out to you, my faithful listeners. If you have questions for me, I'd love to do a Q&A episode. Please feel free to send me questions. I just gave you my website. You can find me there. I'm on all the socials at Nikki the Death Doula. Feel free, or if you are listening on Spotify, there is now a comment section for each episode. So you can comment on my posts. You can ask questions there. And I promise I will hang on to them and I will do a Q&A episode. So, okay. So those are my most frequently asked questions. So now, as promised, I'm going to do a few questions from the death deck this week instead of just one. So, I'm sorry. Excuse me. It's now time for the death deck. Woo! Although this time, actually, I'm going to pull from the end of life deck. So I'm shuffling the cards now. And my cat is being very obnoxious today, so I apologize if you hear him screaming in the background. But he's just having one of his pay attention to me days. All right, so let's pull a card at random. And we have... I feel like I may have answered this one before, but I like this one. Have you experienced dreams, signs, or visitation from deceased family members or friends? If yes, do you find this comforting? If no, who would you like to visit you? So yes, and there's two that stick out the most in my brain. There's one, I was on a podcast, a large podcast called Risk, it's a storytelling show, podcast. And I told a story about losing my brother. And at the very end of my story, I referenced a dream I had. It was, I would probably say, I don't remember exactly. It was several months after he had passed away. And I had this dream that I was at my parents' house, and my parents and I got in this huge fight, and it was just real bad. And I said, I'm leaving, and I'm never coming back. And I went to grab my bag to leave, and my brother stopped me, and he said, "Hey, Nikki," and I was like, "Oh, what do you want? I gotta go." And, we chatted for a second, and he just said, "Look, I know Mom and Dad, whatever, you guys had this fight, but they need you and you need them. You guys need each other more than I think you know. And, you're going to need each other in the future too." And I was like, "You're right. Thank you for talking some sense into me." And I gave him a hug, and I turned around to put my bag back down. And as soon as I turned around, I said, "Wait a minute, Scott's dead." And I turned around and he was gone. And it was sad, but that dream was such a comfort to me, because I really feel like he came back to tell me that everything was going to be okay, and that, we all still have each other. So I love that dream. I will never forget that dream as long as I live. So, yeah. Okay. Let's pull another card. So now we have, okay. How confident are you about what happens after death? A, totally confident, no worries. B, I feel fairly certain, but sometimes I'm curious if I'm right. Or C, I'm not sure what I believe and it's kind of stressing me out. B. I'm firm, hard B there. I believe I have an idea, but I don't know if I'm right or not. Yeah. Am I fully confident? I don't know. But I have some thoughts on the matter. Here's the thing though, working with the dying, my thoughts change a lot. And I think that's okay. I feel like we're meant to be curious and ask questions. And I think it's okay to change your mind. Oh my gosh. This is a great one. Okay. What is one piece of advice or quote you would like to share with those you love? So I have two. One quote is, or piece of advice, I guess. And people ask me this a lot. Like, that's another frequently asked question I get is, has my views on death or life changed since I've taken on this work? And the answer is very much yes. I've always been a little bit of a YOLO person, but life is so short. I know that. You hear it a lot, but I see this. And I've worked with people that are in their 90s, and they're like, this went by so fast. And 90 years is a long time, but life is short, man. Do the thing. Whatever the thing is, do it. Don't wait. Don't put it off. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow. I say this all the time. Do the damn thing. Okay? Do the thing. That would be the one piece of advice. The other so I have a quote I say a lot. And you'll pardon me if this is a little crass, but grief is like a fart. You can't hold it in. Or if you do, it's going to sneak out anyway at the worst possible time. So there you go. Grief is like a fart. You're welcome. All right. I'm going to do one more because this episode's getting to be up there already. So, okay. Oh, shucks. What are you most thankful for today? So I don't, okay. It's what are you most thankful for today? Not in general, not in your whole life, but today. The thing I'm most thankful for today is air conditioning. And there you have it. We've been having, it's no secret. We've been having a heck of a heat wave all over really this year. I've heard even in Europe, they're having just the most atrocious time. And I am so annoyed that I had to replace my AC unit for the house this year, because that was a whole heck of a lot of money I don't have since I quit my full-time job. But I am so grateful I did, and I'm grateful that it is, knock on wood, still working well, because I don't tolerate heat well at all. I'm a Siberian Husky through and through. I need a snowbank once a day to roll in, and I am miserable during the summer. So that's hey, I know that's shallow, but I could say something deep and meaningful, and there are a lot of things I'm grateful for that are deep and meaningful, but right now I'm just grateful for AC. There you go. All right. Guys, seriously, I cannot thank you enough. I am so grateful for my listeners, the ones that reach out to me. I love hearing from you. Please comment on my social media, send me an email, find me on my website, nikkithedeathdoula.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Nikki the Death Doula. Please reach out to me. And like I said, you can leave comments now through Spotify. So leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Give me your answers to the death deck questions. Or just say hi, because I would love that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning this week and every week, and for my last 99 episodes before this one. Thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. And as always, grief is yours. Your feelings are valid. And grief doesn't always have to suck. Good Grief with Nikki the Death Doula is produced by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC in Columbus, Ohio. Nikki the Death Doula LLC is for consulting, education, emotional support, and guidance, and is no way considered a funeral establishment or licensed mental health establishment. Scripts, editing, sound design, literally everything with this podcast is done solely by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC, with the exception of the music. The music is Cheery Monday by Kevin MacLeod. Licensing information can be found at filmmusic.io.